hello, fellow explorers in Australia and New Zealand. This is a really special webinar for us because we're used to doing them in the evening. I'm based in Wales in the UK, so filled with coffee, and Karin and Verena, my co-hosts, are both in Norway and Switzerland. So they're a little bit an hour ahead. They're a little bit more awake than me. But we are going to talk to you through about our Antarctic expedition and also introduce our brand. And in the background today, we have Alice and Ollie, both based in London, but also the amazing Amber and Morgan, based in Australia. So they'll be there in the background helping and answering questions. So as Lee said, if you do have any questions, then please put them in the chat and we'll answer them as we go. But to start with, we will do a little bit of a brand introduction. Who are we and what we're about? At HX Expeditions, we have a number of expeditions all around the world. We operate 5 ships from the Galapagos to Alaska, Arctic Canada, Iceland, Greenland, and Antarctica, which we'll be going into depth. All our trips are based around that mix of adventure, incredibly comfortable ships, and sustainability is at the core of what we do. We have been around for quite a while, some of us more than others. We, as a company, our roots go back to 1896, and we've been through, we're a company born from Hurtigruten expeditions, so a deep, rich history in Norway. Our base of our trips are based really about curiosity and really opening your eyes to those destinations. And we really aim to have a minimal impact in what we do. We are chosen, we're the most chosen operator in Antarctica. We take the most people to Antarctica, which shows what a successful trip and operations we do. Expedition cruising with us really is about taking that ship, our beautiful ships, which we'll talk about, as a base camp, taking you to do all these incredible activities in these unique, fragile, pristine places of the world, which we're very lucky to visit. Our ships are purpose-built for that reason, as expedition ships, ice strengthened, really to be able to go in and go to these places. We're going to go into depth in more on those. But any trip to Antarctica, or actually lots of our trips, we have a big, with Antarctica, we have this great ocean crossing to prepare us in our mind as we go from South America, and we call it a rite of passage. And those, between the three of us in this call, we've done a lot of trips across the Drake. And I'd like to just sort of bring in Verena, because one of the most amazing things going across the Drake as we prepare is the bird life. Tell us a little bit about what our guests can expect as they go across the Drake.
Well, of course, as you sail south, you will be entering these very productive waters, the Southern Ocean. And the longer you sail, the more seabirds you will encounter on our way.
I'm not sure if it's me or Verena, but Verena, I think, is frozen. I can see Karin moving on the screen. Karin, on taking over from that.
She's back, I think.
What? She's back. Whoop. So a bit
Hello?
of technical. You froze for a bit there, Verena, but we'll move over. We'll move over to Karin. Maybe it's the early morning internet isn't liking Switzerland right now. But Karin, in terms of crossing the Drake, and there's a lot of expectation and maybe concern about people crossing the Drake. What should they think about and expect on any trip to Antarctica?
I would say that the Drake passage with our ships are as comfortable as they get, I would say, because we have stabilizers, which means that it takes away quite a bit of the movement, so you don't have the rolling like the old ships did. You have the pitch, but that is by far not that uncomfortable at all. And 9 out of 10 Drake crossings are quite comfortable in the sense that we are there during summertime. So the violent storms are not at its high season at all. I would also say that it's the rite of passage in a way as well. And if you are prone to seasickness, you start taking your seasick tablets or whatever remedy you are used to. I mean, some people swear to ginger, for example. All of that. Start with that when you kind of leave Ushuaia, so that you are doing it in a preventive manner. But most of the time, you will actually enjoy that bit of movement that the crossing brings. But it's very often a perfectly fine crossing for most people, even if you're not very used to the sea.
No, absolutely, and as you said, 9 out of 10 are perfectly very comfortable.
Yeah.
And also our teams, our bridge teams, our captains are incredibly experienced. So being able to adjust the route slightly or the timing is an important part of making it as comfortable as possible for you, our guests. We'll try going back to, it's like the Eurovision. We'll try going back to Switzerland to talk about what we do on board with our guests during the Drake Passage.
Okay, I hope you can hear me now. So the Drake Passage is also the best opportunity we have to start preparing our guests for what is to come. So we, in addition of providing all the relevant security information, we start introducing the wildlife, such as the wonderful seabirds that you will encounter. When sailing south, you will be entering the super productive waters of the Southern Ocean, and you get to encounter species such as this one, which is a royal albatross, one of the biggest flying birds on Earth, with a wingspan of 3.6 meters. And it's amazing to see one such bird, but there's also others like the Cape Petrels and fulmars, southern fulmars. It is during the Drake Passage that you start encountering these very emblematic inhabitants of the Southern Ocean and the Antarctic and subantarctic islands. So it is, a very good way to start that trip of a lifetime.
And I think, we call it a rite of passage, but I think, the journey to South America, especially from Australia and New Zealand, is a long one, also from Europe. So that journey, the fatigue from travel, but that period across the 2 days crossing the Drake is fantastic in terms of preparation, not just, as you said, in terms of the biosecurity, safety information, briefings, but also to prepare our minds, including when we're lucky enough to go again, in terms of, where we're going and this incredible experience and place we're going to and how lucky we are. This world carved by ice, world of different colors. We think of Antarctica as white, but the palette of colors with the sunset, sunrise, the reflections in the ice, the blues, algae, etc. is absolutely incredible. To get you more into the spirit, we're going to show a little video here. One of our expedition leaders introducing a day in Antarctica. So here we go.
I feel it's a sensation.
Welcome to the Antarctic continent.
Antarctica is the place where you see and understand what we need to protect. When you have been there, it changes your perception of life. You see nature at its most pure. Seeing the penguins, having them look at you, pondering who you are and what you are like, and then just walking off. not bothered by your presence. That is something special. Something that you experience rarely with wild animals.
Wonderful, good evening, dear guests.
In Antarctica, when you are here, watch, listen, and feel it. Take that time to actually appreciate where you are and what you are actually seeing.
Just remember to listen and see if you see it calm.
There is no silence in Antarctica. You hear the crackling of the ice, some distant wildlife. You hear a puff of a whale in the distance that you might not see. But this you can only experience if you yourself take the time to listen.
We have some big ones here.
The mission is to have guests fall in love.
Thank you very much. Enjoy.
To understand it.
The 195 million years old.
And to broaden their minds.
But it is blocked by the huge iceberg on the other side.
To see the stars in the eyes of guests when they see their first penguin or when they see their first iceberg, when they walk on snow for the first time. Antarctica is a place you can know everything about, but the feeling you get, the sensation that it gives you, is something you cannot get anywhere else.
Fantastic. I think one of those things people say, if you can describe Antarctica, you have to be able to go to Antarctica to describe it, and it's very much very true. So I mentioned as a company, we operate 5 ships, 3 of them in Antarctica. The Antarctic season runs from from November through to March, the southern summer, as you know well. So yeah, the peak season. There are 3 ships. We have 2 sister ships, MS Roald Amundsen and MS Fridtjof Nansen, which both take up to sort of 490 maximum guests, and then MS Fram, which we take 200. We're really lucky in this call. Karin, I'm going to put you on the spot. As godmother of Roald Amundsen, which is a very high honor. Tell us a little bit about our ships.
So our ships have been custom built, and the last 2 even more so, with the ice strengthened hulls, so that they are able to go through about up to half a meter first year ice. So they are what we call in the technical language PC6. A lot of ships in the industry is that now, so it's kind of the new normal. And we built it exactly for that, to be able to go further south, go further east than we had used to. Fram is a little lower in ice class, but also very capable to be able to go to these areas, and was the ship that made everything actually happen for us in the expedition industry. She was the ship that made Amundsen and Nansen come behind. So very good ships. And I think one of the strengths with HX that we probably won't see with a lot of our competitors is the outdoor space that we have built on our ships. We focused a lot during the building process to have enough outdoor space for our guests, and you can see that because we have big bow areas that you can enjoy the scenery from, and enjoy really it in the element, not just from behind a glass wall. But we have that too. So you kind of have upstairs in the lounges, you have these fantastic glass walls, so you can see it from the comfort of inside as well, if you're not super keen to be outside and standing and getting getting cold. So that was huge for us. and technically very strong, built on Norwegian architecture, naval architecture, and you might say a lot about Norwegians, me being one of them, but I mean it's not everything we get right, but ship design we get right. we know how to build ships.
Yeah.
So it's based on that long tradition we have. And the long tradition we have as a company based in Hurtigruten of building ships over 130 years for different purposes. So yeah, you from a ship design, you're safe with us.
Yeah. And I think the other thing I mentioned at the start about having as low or reducing our impact as much as possible, both Roald Amundsen and Fridtjof Nansen are hybrid vessels. We have a battery pack, so like a hybrid car, and based on numerous different initiatives from the hull design, heat recovery systems, we are burning about 20%, well, minimum of 20%, 25% less fuel than a ship. So our emissions per passenger are the lowest in the industry, which is very important to us. Moving on, we have a number of different itineraries, and Verena, in terms of the different itineraries, can you just talk us briefly about the different itineraries that we have?
Yes, of course. So we have shorter itineraries that fit perfectly those who have few holidays and need to plan accordingly. The 12-day itineraries, you will spend the night in Buenos Aires, fly to Ushuaia, and have 5 full days in the Antarctic Peninsula. Then we have a combination of 16-day itineraries, which will again start in Buenos Aires, fly you down to Ushuaia, and then you will either go to the Falkland Islands and to the Antarctic Peninsula, or you will spend a bit longer in the Antarctic Peninsula and get the chance to sail further south than the polar circle, than 66 degrees southern latitude, which, by the way, is Tudor's favorite itinerary. And then you get the 23-day itinerary, which is Karin and mine favorites, which will go to the Falkland Islands, South Georgia, and the Antarctic Peninsula. And this one will be starting from Santiago, where you will fly down to Punta Arenas and start from there. But if you ask me, any one of these 3 itineraries is just the perfect, depending on how much time you have.
Yeah. Karin, tell us a little bit about South Georgia. Verena mentioned, that they're your favorite trip. And when you're working as EL, I know you're just like, I've got to do the South Georgia trips. Tell us a little bit about South Georgia.
South Georgia is the Serengeti of the Southern Ocean. And by right, it has that name. That wildlife and that landscape that's there, you have these alpine mountains, but you also have the opportunity to do, as you can see, I mean, Antarctica is ice. However, South Georgia is ice, but it has greenery, so you're able to do more hikes there. We famously do the Shackleton hike there, the last portion that Shackleton actually did before he heard the bells at Stromness, which is epic every time, I have to say. And then you have this teeming wildlife, and you have these large colonies of king penguins, and seals, fur seals and elephant seals, and it has this very mystic kind of aura to it, South Georgia. It's hard to get to. It's not easy. You're 2 days sailing away from anything and anywhere. So it has, I think for me and Verena, this is the ultimate. This is the ultimate experience when you from any kind of islands that surrounds the Antarctic. Yeah,
I'd say I love it too, but also
But you haven't been there as much as us.
I haven't been there
That's
as
the
much
only
as you, but
difference.
I should be. In terms of, you mentioned green and ice. You take away the ice, and we end up in the Falkland Islands. Verena, tell us a little bit about the Falklands.
Well, that really comes as my second favorite destination, other than South Georgia. Here again, like you just said, you get that greenery, but you also get a wider variety of wildlife. If wildlife is what you are wanting to encounter during a trip, then this is your destination. You get to see at least 5 species of different penguins in the Falkland Islands. You have albatrosses, you have oyster catchers, you have so many different birds and amazing rockhopper penguins. So yeah, and in addition to that, you also have the community living there in Stanley, permanent community. It's a beautiful little town, really worth visiting. So yes, if you have the time, we would highly recommend that people book this longer itinerary to visit all these 3 amazing places.
Absolutely, and we're one of few operators that offer trips with Antarctica and the Falklands only at the start of the season, as in November, December. So well worth looking at, and some pretty unique trips. But of course, South Georgia trips are the creme de la creme. But we're going to deep dive now into Antarctica, my sort of second home, if you like. And we're talking about the Antarctic Peninsula, this bit that's sticking out towards South America, till it's early in the morning, with multiple different places in this zone of the peninsula where the majority of expedition vessels do go. The key for us is to be in the right place at the right time with our experienced expedition leaders and captains. Verena mentioned our longer trips that go south of the Antarctic Circle, which again, incredible trips. One of the questions we often get is, when is the best time to go? And we've our team have produced this a great little chart. Verena, tell us a little bit about when guests should think about going.
Well, of course, whenever you can is the best time to go. But if you have the flexibility to choose and you want to see something specific, then there is a timing to consider. Early November, you will get the pristine Antarctica just coming back to life after the winter time, but you will probably just get to see penguins arriving back in the continent, or to the continent for the breeding season. So December, January are the best months for penguin and chicks. If you want to focus more on whales, then end of December, January and onwards is whale heaven down in Antarctica. And if you want to experience magnificent light changes like you see in that image, then you better plan to go towards the end of the season when the days are getting shorter again. But again, whenever you get the opportunity, that is the best time to go.
The best time is when you're there, because it's all great. When we're there, we see like an abundance of wildlife, and we'll be going into different parts of discussing more in depth. But of course, penguins are the sort of key species that we associate with Antarctica, and the abundance of penguins you saw in the video with Torstein, our expedition leader. But of course, seabirds, we've already mentioned, a lot of whales and seals. So wildlife is a very important part of what we go. And Antarctica is not a zoo, but we really get some pretty unique opportunities. And this actually, for the first time in a long time, Verena, Karin and I started working together. Karin was expedition leader. I was a historian. Verena was an ornithologist working on Fram many, many, many years ago. But we get those experiences. But for the first time in a long time, we were all on the same trip in November. And this was from the trip where we were lucky enough where a pod of orca became very interested in visiting the ship. And if you look closely at I was going to say the nose, not the right term, of this orca, it came so close to the ship that you can see the name Roald Amundsen reflected in its on its nose. So yeah, incredible experience. And again, as Karin mentioned, being out on the deck, really experiencing these whales around the ship, absolutely incredible experiences. So again, trying to get the ship in the right place at the right time. It is not a zoo. We don't always see orca, but it's an incredible experience. But part of that, to help us, we have this incredible expedition team of professionals helping us. Karin, tell us a little bit about our expedition teams.
So we've curated this team constellations over many years and tried to find the ideal one. So, and I think we're coming close to it now. And we've focused a lot on our science teams being sort of multi-talents, so that they're able to answer questions not necessarily just specific to their field of expertise, but they do have strong expertise fields, and that's something that we are very proud of. So on our larger ships, we are up to 22 in the expedition team. They drive Zodiacs. They do extensive training every year. We have an academy in HX that trains in field skills. They also have a team behind the scene to help them stay on top on science-related issues. That's Verena's team doing that. So they're constantly updated. You have activity guides that are focusing on the activities, but also being able to say something about ice and everywhere. So we do really try to curate teams that can help you there and then, irrespective of what their field of expertise is, and they learn from each other. So it, as you can see, it's a massive range from marine to terrestrial to people with geology, glaciology. So whatever kind of element that is in focus where we are, we have team members that have specific knowledge fields in that special environment you go to.
Yeah, brilliant. And they're really massive asset. And any day in Antarctica, we start the trip with a plan A, but we recommend every evening the expedition leader will do a briefing for the plan A for the next day. And every day is different. But every day we plan to do 2 off-ship activities when we're in Antarctica. That can be a nature landing, taking you ashore with our Zodiacs, which we'll talk a little bit about later. That can be doing a Zodiac cruise, small boat cruising, a totally different experience on the water. And also added activities, which we'll talk about, such as kayaking, snowshoeing, etc., etc. So we'll go more into those. But combined with those activities where we split you into groups and we have a plan, so you will know what time you will be going ashore on your nature landing, and then perhaps in the afternoon doing your Zodiac cruising. We have a host of activities on board, from practical sessions through to lectures, activities, and of course incredible food, which we locally source in as much as we can in South America. So a lot going on through the day, which keeps you very busy. You can dip in and dive out. It is your holiday, but there's plenty to do. Karin mentioned about the expedition team and our science team, our lecturers, our historians. Verena, can you talk us through a little bit about our science and education program and what our guests get up to on board and off the ship?
Well, our ships are operating in very remote and not so accessible areas. And therefore, our science and education program focuses also on supporting the scientific community by offering our ships as platforms of opportunity. So on every departure we have in Antarctica, we will have guest scientists on board who will be performing their research in real time And in exchange, they will contribute to our onboard program. As Karin mentioned, we have a very well educated expedition staff with PhD degrees and so on and so on. Yeah. So they can cover all of the basics you need to know about the destination, the ecosystem, the interactions, and so on. But in addition, you will get to hear from the people doing science on board our ships as well. And we have in long-term collaborations with many research institutions and organizations. This is just a few of their logos. And again, people will be interacting with these researchers and our expedition staff throughout the day in the form of lectures, activities, sessions using the microscopes and the bone clone collection that we have on board, so that our guests get the deepest understanding of Antarctica while sailing with us. And this is one of my favorite parts. We had hosted researchers who are studying sound in Antarctica. So this first video is the recovery of these recorders that were deployed during the winter in Antarctica for the first time during the 25-26 Antarctic season. Those there is Tudor recovering the artifact, and they're very happy scientists getting it. It was the very first time sound recorders were deployed during the winter in Antarctica, and after recovering them, Heidi, the scientist, went back to the science center. And shared the amazing recordings that she obtained during a full year of having those recorders on the water. So those sounds were heard for the very first time by our guests on board the Roald Amundsen last season. So it is an amazing opportunity for people to do that. And we not only have the guest scientists, we also involve our guests in a number of citizen science projects. Like Tudor say, people can do as little or as much as they want. All the projects that we support contribute to real data informing conservation of Antarctica. We contribute with bird observations, with marine mammal observations. We invite our guests to join us on the science boat and do the actual physical sample collection and oceanographic data collection that we will then share with research institutions. And one thing that we are really proud of is that in collaboration with the University of Tasmania, we have created these incredible courses that help prepare our guests better for what is to come when traveling with us. So we have 2 courses, the introductory Antarctic course that is free for everyone sailing with us, which will give a short introduction to the wildlife, to the governance of the Antarctic continent, to the different marine environments and so on, icebergs, glaciers. You will get to the ship well prepared for what is to come. And then we have the comprehensive course, which is a longer, over 20-hour course that is developed so that people can dive even deeper, either during the trip or after the trip when they return home and want to continue learning about the destination. That one has a cost, but the cost is the benefits or the proceedings of this course are used for UTAS to send students and researchers to join our ships. So it is by doing these courses, you are at the same time contributing to research being done in Antarctica. So yes, the science and education program.
Yeah, and I think as part of, obviously having really strong connections with Australia and New Zealand in terms of our science partnerships and our research partnerships and this course, but also having our own customer service team based in Melbourne with Morgan, who's in the background on this call, looking after our guests from down under. So great to have there. But one of the tiny things we don't really notice and see, Verena, and kind of what we bring through, which our guests wouldn't necessarily think about. Tell us a little bit about, where we're sort of what we do with our purpose-built science centre.
Exactly. Most people come to Antarctica with hopes of seeing the very big guys, the penguins, the whales, the seabirds, but only a few have an idea of how much life exists in the ocean. The abundance is just overwhelming. If you take a drop of water, which we collect during our science boat that I mentioned earlier, where guests are invited to join us and help us collect this data, we will use those samples when we are back and in the Science Center and show our guests the abundance of wildlife, of microscopic wildlife. Phytoplankton is the base of the food web, any food web in the world. Phytoplankton is the plant part of plankton, the microscopic living beings in the ocean. And you probably don't know, but they are responsible for 50% of the ocean that we breathe in is produced by phytoplankton. They are so abundant. And they are also the food for one of the key species in Antarctica, the Antarctic krill, which is consumed by penguins, seabirds, whales directly. So with our science centers, our teams, our guest scientists, we are able to walk our guests through the whole food web, not just by talking about it, but by bringing it to life under the microscope and allowing our guests to hands-on get that experience or that field work, if you want, on our ships. They can be an active participant in research.
It's a real big eye-opener whilst we're doing all these other incredible activities that we do to be able to see the microscopic world. And Karin, we do these amazing activities that keep everybody super engaged, as well as the sort of interpretation and understanding. But everything we do in Antarctica sort of fills our minds. Do you want to talk us a little bit through the activities we do? We've got some different slides that sort of demonstrate those.
Yeah. So the key thing is our landing and small boat cruising, which is the core of what we do. It's what's included for everyone and what we attempt to do, one of each of these on every day, depending on weather. And I also want to say that since this is an agent's call as well, to compare this a little bit to the rest of the industry as well, is that a landing and small boat cruising is becoming much more the normal on the than it used to be. Also because we have to look at the development of tourism in the Antarctic Peninsula over the last 15 years. There is a lot more ships in the peninsula now than it used to be, and with that growth that we all had to adapt to, this is the new normal. We kind of saw this kind of early, started to adapt early, and using small boat cruising and one landing a day became our normal already 5 or no, maybe even more before COVID even. So this is now, when I look at all others around us, this is way more the normal than you would anticipate from there. And from there on, sea-based activities is super exciting, because you do the landings, but you have to be really careful about doing landings in Antarctica because there's not a lot of space to do it on. It doesn't matter what ship size you're on. You have 100 ashore at any given point in time, and you have to adapt from time to time. So you have to be very on it and that's why these small activities, or not small, they're actually quite big. The kayaking and we do discovery kayaking as well. So we have made our activity program much bigger this year by giving people autonomy to be doing kayaking a little bit on their own. We kind of saw that guided kayaking was not for everyone, and this gives more opportunities to be out there. And being amongst the ice scape is so interesting. So that's why, increasing that on the water activity has been really important for us, because we saw as guests were on board that that's what they wanted to do. So so landings, small boat cruising, a massive kayak program, overnight stays, which you can see here. We have increased also our opportunity for guests to do overnight stays by increasing it to bivvy, and so we have tents and bivvies, and that is a short overnight stay, but it is worth every hour, and we try to do that on every trip, weather dependent, of course.
Yeah, brilliant. And those last few pictures were taken this last November when Karin, Verena, and I were there. So yeah, great. As always, great time of year to go, but whenever you go is always good. As part of being very active in the industry, there's the Industry Association, IATA, which we're very active in across multiple committees. So we're very much part of there. All activities in Antarctica are permitted. We are permitted through the UK, and the regulation of operations in Antarctica are very high. So very important for us to have as lower impact as possible, and we do that through multiple different ways, but very important to have our well-trained expedition team and captains and crew delivering our incredible trips. For us at HX, our expeditions, unlike many other expedition operators, are all-inclusive. That means we don't, for day-to-day operations, you don't have to dip your hand in your pocket. That includes everything from free Wi-Fi, which is Starlink, which is now very good. Our professional photographer will supply not only just hints and tips on taking great photos, but will supply you with a portfolio of photos that will be sent to you after the trip. So all these things come together as an all-inclusive package. Those extras of kayaking and camping are chargeable extras. As Karin mentioned, our ships are incredibly comfortable, Norwegian design, very high quality, incredibly relaxed life on board, no formal dress code. And really, the destination is the backdrop, and we really want you to enjoy that destination with incredible space. And again, this a view going into the northern part of Le Maire Channel back in November. We mentioned food is very important part of anywhere you go, but our food and our restaurants on Amundsen, Nansen and Fram are fantastic. Great range of different dishes, and certainly one of the biggest challenges is not to put on weight when you go on a trip because the food is so good. If you book a trip with us, then we provide you with a lot of information in terms of our documentation, advice on what to pack as well. So we have a really comprehensive voyage documentation process. And we also provide you with a pre-departure webinar. So you could hear from Verena, Karin, and myself, or others, which will talk you through your trip. As part of any expedition trip, in biosecurity is really important. So we supply, and we don't want you to have to fly with, expedition boots. So we will loan you boots for when you on board for the duration of the trip. We also will supply you with walking sticks if needed, and we will also give you an expedition jacket and a water bottle. So the jacket and the water bottle are for you to keep. If you are interested, then and you want to scan this QR code, this will lead you to a great little what to pack video that our expedition team put together to tell you what clothes and stuff. But again, when you book, I should say, then you can follow that information. One of the questions we get a lot about expedition cruising is in my fitness levels. Can I get in and off the boats? What do I do? This is the tender pit or the tender platform on MS Roald Amundsen, I think, or Nansen, they're the same. But Karin, talk us through a little bit about people's concerns about fitness and getting in on and off our Zodiacs.
Yeah, we quite a few people don't understand sort of what it is, and I totally understand that. I mean, this is a little bit of an alien environment to be in, having to go in and out of an inflatable rubber, boat every day, but you really get the hang of it really quickly. So for everyone who are worried about mobility level, I would say that if you are able to sit on a chair and go sit, down on the floor and come back up again, relatively okay, you're more than fine enough, because we have people helping you in and out of the boat. And so you're more or less actually carried in and out, and you just really need to take it slow when you're doing that. And there are briefings before you go on board as well, and you have expedition team you can ask. They can even simulate it for you if you are have an issue. And so getting in and out of the boat is kind of what you need to not necessarily need to practice, but need to wrap your head around. And then the rest is up to you. If you come to the landing site and you see that, getting in and out of the boat is going to be too much, then you just stop and you just tell the driver, I'm just going to sit in the boat and, go back to the ship because this doesn't really fit for me today. But I've seen it. So I now have been able to judge that myself. We have that all the time. So mobility level, don't worry too much about it, because the Zodiac cruising that we take people on a lot do not require anything but get in and out of that boat, and you get a lot of help. So and you can see the tender pit from here. They are very comfortable in the sense that they are designed in a way that it's not an acrobatic exercise to get in and out.
Yeah, not every the part of an expedition ship is having purpose-built shell doors or at sea level, which are expensive to put in, but incredibly safe to put there for those. But safety is our number one concern. So getting in and out of the boats, our expedition team and crew are there to help you at both sides. So, safety is really important to us. But it's good to go through that in terms of the expectations of fitness level. If you are thinking of going and you want to read more, then Verena, could you tell us a little bit about some books that our guests could read?
Yes, of course. I mean, Antarctica is a place of so many incredible histories that my very first pick would be The Storied Ice, that is a summary of expeditions, adventures, and everything around exploration in the Antarctic Peninsula region. That is the focus of our expedition, so a very good read to get. Karin did mention the walk Shackleton hike. It is the incredible survival story of Ernest Shackleton and his team that intended to cross across Antarctica. And Endurance, this book by Alfred Lansing, is a very good recollection of that experience. Madhouse at the End of the Earth is a summary of the Belgica expedition led by Charcot. By Gerlach. Too many names. And of course, yes. And of course, if you are fan of wildlife, there are several very good wildlife guides for Antarctica, but this one by James Lowen is particularly good. It's a very good summary of what to see. And whales and dolphins, this is also, you can also get that as an e-version, so easy to have on your phone.
Brilliant. Thank you, Verena. We're wrapping up now. We're going to shortly go to question and answers. But as a thank you for watching us, then we would like to offer you a promotion of $400 off your Antarctic booking. So if you are interested in booking before the 25th of March, then please use this code HX Webinar 250 with our agent or your travel agent. So that's there, but please note it's not combinable with other offers. But yeah, please take a look at that, and thank you for following us. If you are interested in further destinations, then we do have a suite of different webinars where you can hear from the three of us and about all our destinations we sail to. But we'll bring in, I'll stop sharing screen and we'll bring in Amber. Amber, what have been the hot topics that our guests listening would like to know more about?
Thank you all, Tudor, Karin, Verena. That was so interesting. I learnt stuff this afternoon from you all, so thank you. There has been a lot of hot topics on the chat, and one thing I will just address before we move on is Sally asked the question about the bivy bags, and the best way to describe a bivy bag is similar to a swag. So as Australians, we would know it as a swag. So we have the options of camping in a tent, or a bivy bag is like an open-faced swag, if you like. So you can lay there looking up at the beautiful sky of Antarctica. So that's probably the best way, Sally, to describe what that is. But one of the questions that we did have, which was really, really important to know, is just with regards to binoculars, and should guests pack their own binoculars, and what are the best ones to bring? Who's probably the best to answer that one? I think that's heading to you, Verena.
Yes, thank you, Amber. Yeah, binoculars. It is good if you already have a pair of binoculars, or if people already have a pair of binoculars and are comfortable with them, then that is the pair to bring. Otherwise, if people are thinking of purchasing a pair specifically for this trip, we recommend lighter models, so a magnification of 8 times to 10 times, and with an objective length between 32 and 42 millimeters. That will allow the guests to have the best experience using the binoculars, because they will be not too heavy, easy to carry, easy to focus, and particularly easy to follow wildlife while using them.
And that type of, all that sort of detailed information is in our packing information and our pre-departure webinars. So
Indeed.
So when you get ready to go, we'll be able to prepare those. But it's good to know now as well, of course.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. That's some good tips on what to bring for the binoculars. One of the other questions that we had is just with regards to, and again, Verena, I'm sending this one to you actually, is how many scientists we usually have on board. It's so great that we have access to them and they're in the Science Centre and it's the heart of the ship. But how many generally would we have on board?
So we have dedicated 2 cabins on all 3 expedition ships operating in Antarctica. So you can expect at least 1 scientist on every departure, but they can be up to 4 researchers using those 2 cabins. So yes, you can be with just 1 researcher doing 1 research project, or you can have a number of different projects running simultaneously.
And they truly are, and they are so accessible and they're so knowledgeable, and you can ask them questions all day and they just don't get sick of answering your questions. Trust me from experience. Tudor, a question, and this is, I'm sending this one to you because it's a bit of a funny one, is and having spent so much time in Antarctica, it's not even trips, it's literally years for you. What is the strangest thing you've ever packed for a trip to Antarctica? I'm a little bit scared of what you're going to answer.
Well, I love taking hats. And so I take lots of different hats. And when I was on an amazing trip in Alaska last summer, I found this big orca hat. And I thought I'm going to take this to Antarctica because it's going to be my lucky hat. And I'm only going to wear it if I see an orca. And as you saw in that last slide, or in the presentation, we had this amazing orca experience. And then I wore this orca hat. And the majority of the expedition team were saying, "Where did you get that? I want that." And it's a crazy hat. It is a real crazy hat and a very big luxury to pack. But I love hats, so it's kind of crazy stuff, but yeah, fun. Not necessarily that weird because you need lots of hats. But yeah, it was this. Verena remembers it. It's like this really long,
a whole orca
really
in your
cool.
head.
Yeah, yeah.
That's one of the tips I give our guests is make sure you pack a good looking beanie because you've got lots of photos of yourself in Antarctica and then you come home and you look at your photos and you think, yep, that's a good beanie. So that's one to pack. And we're just about out of time. So just the one of this really great question from Gabrielle, thank you very much, is in relation to solo travelers and single people on board. And just how we and Morgan's answering that one, but just we have so many solo travelers from all over the world. So who would like to just address how we manage that and how they meet each other?
I can start and then maybe Karin join in afterwards. But yeah, about surprisingly, I guess about 20% of our guests are solo travelers. And at the start of the trip, our future cruise manager and usually our hotel manager will have a gathering for our solo travelers. And so they get to meet and know who's who. And then we reserve also a table in the dining room that solo travelers can join if they want. Also, it doesn't mean you have to join, but there's usually really strong connections made between solo travelers on our trips. We do group people into our boat groups, and there's flexibility to swap people around into groups if they want to be with each other. So that, yeah, it's a really good strong connections between solo travelers. And in fact, recently I was contacted by one of our frequent solo travelers who's a group of them that met on a HX ship, and they now travel every year together, not into different places around the world. But they're all booking a trip to Antarctica next year. I think there's 10 or 11 of them now joined up together to go on the same trip. So yeah, really, really real fun group. But Karin, would you like to add any more on that in terms of the solo, activities as well that we offer, and we can group people or not?
Yeah, but I think that the very ambience of a trip like this, you are with like-minded people, regardless if you're a single traveler or if you're with a couple or if you're with friends as well. So what we also see is that there's a lot of just sort of natural alliances forging across the board while they're there. So you don't have to sort of just go with other single travelers or mingle with other single travelers. They kind of mingle just because they are there of the interest of the trip. So a lot of people just find each other mixed up, like Tudor says, via the groups, or just simply by eating together in the dining room, or sitting together in the lecture hall and sharing some experiences there, or being in the science center together. Or even some have forged alliances by having to paddle together for a 1.5 hour. Nothing shows more dedication than that.
Yeah. I think Amber and Morgan are more aligned to this, but our solo offers tend to come out not at the time we publish the catalogs, but we do some great deals. So it's worth keeping an eye out on deals for solos, and we do some fantastic deals.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really do. And actually, we've got some even no single supplements as well as low, but we have a lot of departures even coming up at the end of this year to Antarctica where we don't have a single supplement. So it's very, very attractive for people traveling solo. And we're just about out of time. It's this hour has flown.
It's flown, absolutely. And just to say, this is our 130th year, so we also have some incredible offers, so never a better time to book. But we very much look forward to seeing you on board at some point in the future. At the end of this webinar, you will receive a link. So please give us some feedback, because we'd like to continue doing these for our guests and explorers in Australia and New Zealand. So please do give us some feedback, and we can do that. But thank you very much for listening, and we will see you on board soon, hopefully. Bye for now.
Thanks, everybody.